Master Chief Sergeant Brixton Kane's voice dripped with contempt as he watched the slight figure approach the security checkpoint. Looks like someone's little sister got lost on her way to the library. Scarlett Whitmore adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses and clutched her worn laptop bag tighter. At barely 5'4" in her oversized gray cardigan and khaki pants, she looked more like a college freshman than someone with clearance for Fort Davidson's Classified Intelligence Center. "I'm here for the GIS data collection," she said quietly, offering her credentials with trembling hands. Kane snatched the badge, his massive frame casting a shadow over her. Scarlett Whitmore, Civilian Intelligence Analyst. He read each word like it tasted bitter. "You sure you're in the right place, sweetheart? The coffee shop's about 10 miles that way." The other SEALs gathered around, their laughter echoing through the sterile corridor. Sergeant Wade Harper shifted uncomfortably, but didn't speak up. Lieutenant Paisley Blackwood smirked from her radar station, already composing the text she'd send to her friends about the little girl playing spy. Scarlett's blue eyes remained fixed on the floor. "I just need access to the satellite imaging system for 3 hours. Standard intelligence gathering protocol." "Standard?" Kane stepped closer, his combat boots clicking against the polished concrete. "Princess, the only thing standard about you is how completely out of your depth you look. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to sit in that corner, touch nothing important, and try not to embarrass yourself too badly." What none of them noticed was how Scarlett's fingers had automatically counted the exits, cataloged each weapon within reach, and calculated the precise angle needed to disable the security cameras. In exactly 47 minutes, everything they thought they knew about the quiet girl with the nervous smile would be shattered forever. Kane jerked his head toward the security desk, where Corporal Jackson Nash sat playing games on his phone. "Nash, run Princess here through the civilian protocol, and make sure she understands that classified means classified. We don't need another security incident because someone's intern got curious." Scarlett's shoulders tensed imperceptibly at the word intern, but she maintained her submissive posture. Her military bearing wanted to snap into attention, but deep cover meant swallowing pride like poison. She'd learned that lesson in places where a single wrong move meant death for entire families. Nash looked up from his screen with obvious annoyance. "Great, babysitting duty. Follow me, college girl, and try to keep up." As they walked deeper into the facility, Kane's voice carried from behind them. "Harper, I want you watching her every move. Something about this whole setup stinks. Civilian analyst requesting specific satellite feeds right before our operational readiness exercise? That's not coincidence." Harper nodded reluctantly, falling into step behind Scarlett. Unlike the others, he'd noticed details they'd missed. The way she moved with controlled balance despite her nervous demeanor. How her eyes swept corners and exits with tactical precision. The slight calluses on her hands that spoke of weapons training rather than academic work. Can you feel that tension building? When someone's being underestimated this badly, you know something big is about to drop. If you're loving this clash between appearances and reality, smash that like button right now, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. This story is just getting started, and trust me, you won't want to miss what Scarlett's really capable of. The intelligence center buzzed with controlled chaos. Multiple screens displayed real-time satellite feeds from conflict zones across the globe. Communications specialists monitored encrypted channels, while analysts tracked movement patterns that could indicate hostile activity. It was the nerve center of America's predictive intelligence capabilities, and every person here held clearances that took years to obtain. Except for the nervous girl in the cardigan, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "This is your workstation," Nash announced, pointing to a corner desk positioned where everyone could see her. "You get basic access to unclassified imaging feeds. Anything beyond that requires supervisor approval, which you won't get. Touch anything you're not supposed to, and security will escort you out in cuffs." Scarlett set down her laptop bag with careful precision, her movements economical in a way that suggested muscle memory rather than conscious thought. "I understand. Thank you for the briefing." Lieutenant Blackwood approached with coffee in hand and malice in her eyes. "So, tell us, Scarlett, what exactly qualifies a civilian to request access to our satellite intelligence systems? Your resume says you graduated from Stanford with a degree in geographic information systems. That's pretty basic stuff for what we do here." "I'm conducting research on predictive modeling for environmental threats," Scarlett replied softly, avoiding eye contact. "Climate change impacts on military readiness. Kane burst out laughing from across the room. Climate change? That's rich. Let me guess. You're here to tell us that global warming is more dangerous than enemy forces. This is what happens when politicians start making military decisions. The room erupted in chuckles and knowing looks. Dr. Reagan Mitchell, the facility's technical advisor, glanced up from her workstation with mild interest. Unlike the others, her scientific background made her curious about methodologies rather than dismissive of credentials. Scarlett powered up her equipment with movements that were too smooth, too practiced for someone allegedly unfamiliar with military systems. Her fingers found specific keys without looking, navigated classified interfaces with suspicious ease, and input access codes from memory rather than notes. Security Chief Garrett Dawson watched from his monitoring station, his years of experience telling him something was off about their visitor. Kane, you might want to look at this. Her access requests aren't matching her stated mission parameters. She's asking for feeds from sectors that have no environmental monitoring requirements. Kane strode over to peer at Dawson's screen. What kind of sectors? High-risk operational zones, areas where we've had recent intelligence activity. Either she's conducting unauthorized research, or someone didn't properly vet her clearance requests. Meanwhile, Scarlett continued working with quiet efficiency, her screens displaying satellite imagery that most analysts would need hours to properly interpret. She was processing data streams at a rate that suggested either exceptional training or access to analytical tools far beyond civilian authorization levels. Harper noticed her hand positions as she worked. Perfect ergonomics for extended computer operations under stress conditions. The kind of muscle memory developed through intensive training rather than casual use. Her breathing remained controlled despite the hostile environment, and her peripheral awareness never wavered, even while focused on complex data analysis. "Hey, Princess," Blackwood called out, her tone sharp with authority. "What's your actual security clearance level? Because you're moving through those interfaces like someone with a lot more access than you should have." Scarlett's fingers paused for just a moment before continuing their work. "I have temporary analytical clearance for this specific project. All my access parameters were approved through proper channels." "Temporary clearance doesn't explain technical familiarity," Dr. Mitchell observed, her scientific curiosity overriding social cymics. "You're interpreting thermal signature data, like someone with extensive battlefield analysis experience. Where did you learn those recognition patterns?" The room fell silent as all attention focused on the question hanging in the air. Scarlett's background claimed academic credentials, but her practical skills suggested something far more specialized. Kane sensed weakness and moved in for what he assumed would be an easy victory. "Answer the doctor's question, college girl, because right now, you're looking less like a researcher and more like someone who doesn't belong here." Scarlett's specialized monitoring equipment included military-grade ruggedized tablets featuring advanced satellite connectivity and encrypted data processing capabilities. These professional-grade devices contained reinforced titanium construction designed to withstand extreme operational environments, with sapphire crystal screens and extended battery life lasting up to 72 hours under demanding field conditions. The integrated GPS systems provided real-time atmospheric data processing, essential for accurate intelligence analysis in hostile territories where conventional technology would completely fail. "I've studied available case studies," Scarlett replied carefully. "Pattern recognition is transferable between disciplines." Nash snorted with derision. "Case studies? Lady, what we do here isn't something you learn from textbooks. This is real-world intelligence analysis that requires years of hands-on experience. You can't fake expertise just because you read some papers." Specialist Griffin Johnson looked up from his IT support station, his young face showing the kind of arrogance that came from technical competence without wisdom. "Want me to run a deeper background check on her? Something's not adding up about this whole situation." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as automated systems switched to alert status, and every screen simultaneously displayed the same urgent message: "Threat detection initiated. Analyzing incoming data streams." Commander Sterling Cross burst through the security doors, his uniform bearing the insignia of someone who had spent decades making life-or-death decisions under pressure. "All personnel to stations. We're receiving priority intelligence indicating possible hostile activity in our operational zone." The room transformed from casual intimidation to professional focus as trained operators moved to their assigned positions. Multiple analysts began processing incoming satellite data, while communication specialists established secure links with command authorities. This was what they'd trained for, what justified their existence. Except the data wasn't cooperating with their expectations. "Sir, we're seeing anomalous patterns but can't establish specific threat parameters," reported Master Sergeant Joaquin Rivera, his weathered hands moving across controls with practiced efficiency. "Thermal signatures are consistent with human activity, but movement patterns don't match known enemy tactics." Cross studied the primary display, his command experience telling him that unclear intelligence often meant the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. "Get me threat assessment from all available sources. I want confirmation on hostile intent before we start moving assets." Lieutenant Foster worked furiously at her analysis station, cross-referencing incoming data with historical patterns and known enemy capabilities. "Commander, I'm not seeing clear indicators. Could be civilian movement, could be reconnaissance, could be preparation for attack. The data's too ambiguous for confident assessment." From her corner workstation, Scarlett watched the proceedings with growing concern. Her trained eye saw patterns that others were missing, connections that years of specialized experience had taught her to recognize. But speaking up would mean exposing capabilities that her cover identity couldn't possess. Kane noticed her focused attention and immediately became suspicious. "Hey, Princess, this isn't a classroom exercise. Classified operations aren't entertainment for civilians." Blackwood joined the attack with relish. "Maybe we should escort her out until this alert is resolved. Security protocol says non-essential personnel should be removed during active intelligence situations." "I'm authorized to be here," Scarlett said quietly, her eyes never leaving the satellite feeds that everyone else was struggling to interpret. "Hold up. Did you catch those subtle hints about Scarlett's real skills? The way she analyzed those exits, counted weapons, calculated camera angles? Drop a dragon emoji in the comments if you're starting to suspect this nervous girl isn't what she seems. Something tells me Kane is about to learn a very hard lesson." Minutes passed, with increasing tension as the facility's best analysts failed to provide clear threat assessment. Cross paced behind the workstations, his frustration building as conflicting reports created more confusion than clarity. Every delay meant potential American lives at risk if the threat was real, or wasted resources if it was false alarm. Dr. Mitchell approached Scarlett's workstation with scientific curiosity overriding military protocol. "What's your assessment of the thermal patterns? Your background suggests expertise in environmental analysis." Scarlett hesitated, knowing that accurate analysis would reveal capabilities far beyond her stated credentials. But as she watched trained professionals struggle with data she could interpret clearly, deeper principles began overriding personal security concerns. "The patterns suggest coordinated movement with tactical spacing," she said softly, her voice carrying subtle authority that hadn't been there before. Three-person teams maintaining communication distance while advancing through terrain that provides concealment from aerial observation. The room fell silent as her assessment penetrated the confusion that had paralyzed official analysis. Cross turned toward her with sharp attention, his command instincts recognizing competent intelligence evaluation regardless of its source. "Explain," Cross ordered, his tone shifting to professional respect. Scarlett stood slowly, her nervous demeanor beginning to crack under the weight of operational necessity. Grid reference 77 Alpha shows thermal blooms consistent with recently extinguished heating sources, equipment cooling rather than environmental temperature variation. The timing suggests coordinated movement halt at 14:30 hours. Harper watched in growing amazement as the quiet civilian delivered tactical analysis with military precision. Her terminology was exact, her confidence building, as expertise overrode cover identity requirements. Kane stepped closer, his suspicion now mixed with grudging professional interest. "How do you know thermal bloom patterns for tactical equipment?" "Because she's not who she claims to be," Dawson said quietly, his security training finally putting pieces together that others had missed. "Background check is pulling up anomalies. Her educational records are clean, but employment history has gaps that don't match her stated timeline." Johnson's fingers flew across his keyboard as he dug deeper into classified databases that civilian credentials shouldn't access. "Commander, there are sealed files associated with her identity, stuff way above my clearance level." Cross made the command decision that would change everything. "Scarlett, I need you to provide complete threat assessment based on current intelligence. Lives may depend on accurate analysis. For the first time since entering the facility, Scarlett straightened to her full height. Her voice lost its nervous tremor as years of training reasserted itself over deep cover requirements. Hostile forces are positioning for coordinated assault on this facility. Attack timing will be 1600 hours when shift change creates minimal personnel readiness. Primary assault vector will be Eastern Perimeter, where construction activity has created tactical blind spots. Military personnel required comprehensive financial protection and specialized insurance coverage designed for high-risk operational environments. Professional liability insurance and asset protection services provided essential security for service members whose careers involved classified operations and potential legal complications. These exclusive financial planning services included emergency fund management, disability coverage, and inheritance protection, specifically tailored for intelligence professionals operating under deep cover assignments where traditional financial institutions couldn't provide adequate security. The specificity of her analysis stunned everyone into momentary silence. This wasn't general threat assessment. It was operational intelligence that suggested intimate knowledge of enemy capabilities and tactical planning. "How could you possibly know attack timing?" Blackwood demanded, her earlier mockery replaced by suspicion and growing fear. Scarlett's blue eyes hardened as survival instincts overrode cover protocol. "Because I've seen this pattern before, multiple times. Same spacing, same timing, same tactical approach. They're following a playbook I helped write countermeasures for." Kane felt the ground shifting beneath everything he thought he understood about their situation. "What playbook? What countermeasures? Who the hell are you?" Before Scarlett could respond, Johnson's computer screen filled with classified information that made him step back as if he'd been burned. "Commander, you need to see this. Her real files just got declassified at the highest authorization levels." Cross moved to Johnson's workstation and read rapidly through information that changed his understanding of everything that had happened since their visitor arrived. His face went through a series of expressions: surprise, recognition, concern, and finally something approaching awe. "Clear the room," Cross ordered quietly. "Everyone except essential personnel. Now." "Sir, with respect, shouldn't we evacuate the civilian?" Rivera asked, his protective instincts focused on what appeared to be the most vulnerable person present. Cross turned to look at Scarlett with new understanding. "Sergeant, I don't think she's the one who needs protection." Nash laughed nervously. "Come on, Commander. She's just some college researcher who got in over her head. What's the worst thing she could be? A really well-educated environmental activist?" The absurdity of that statement would have been funny under different circumstances. Instead, it highlighted how completely they'd misjudged their situation. Scarlett wasn't the nervous graduate student she'd appeared to be. She wasn't even close. Harper approached carefully, his infantry training telling him to treat unknown variables with maximum respect. "Ma'am, would you mind if I asked about your actual background?" Scarlett studied his face, seeing genuine respect rather than mockery for the first time since her arrival. "Sergeant, there are things about my background that remain classified for operational security reasons. But I can tell you that threat assessment is something I take very seriously." Dawson monitored incoming communications while trying to process the growing realization that their security protocols had been inadequate from the moment Scarlett walked through the door. "Commander, we're getting priority traffic from multiple agencies. They all want immediate confirmation of one specific question, which is whether Dragon Eye is currently on site." The name hit the room like an electromagnetic pulse, shutting down conversation and freezing everyone in place. Dragon Eye was a legend whispered in intelligence circles, a predictive specialist whose analytical capabilities had saved thousands of American lives through uncanny ability to anticipate enemy actions before they occurred. Nash's game-playing arrogance evaporated as the implications sank in. "Dragon Eye is real. I thought that was just stories people told to boost morale." "Dragon Eye is very real," Cross confirmed, his voice carrying the weight of classified knowledge. "And apparently, Dragon Eye has been sitting in our corner this entire time while we've been treating her like an unwelcome intern." Scarlett remained silent, but her posture had shifted from defensive to alert readiness. The nervous energy was gone, replaced by the controlled stillness of someone prepared for whatever might come next. Blackwood felt sick as she realized the magnitude of their mistake. "Sir, if she's really Dragon Eye, then everything we said, everything we did, Will be addressed through proper channels, Cross said firmly. Right now, our priority is the threat she's identified. Ma'am, what's your recommended response to prevent the assault you've predicted? Scarlett moved to the primary display with fluid confidence. Her analysis capabilities finally unleashed from cover constraints. Redirect patrol routes to eliminate blind spots. Position quick reaction forces at rally points that cut off retreat paths. Most importantly, change shift rotation timing to maintain full readiness when they expect minimal resistance. Her recommendations were precise, actionable, and delivered with the authority of someone who'd planned similar operations from both sides of the tactical equation. This wasn't theoretical analysis. It was operational experience applied to immediate threats. Kane found himself in the surreal position of taking orders from someone he'd been humiliating minutes earlier. Ma'am, do you need any additional resources to refine your threat assessment? Negative. The pattern is clear once you know what to look for. They'll probe eastern defenses at 1545 hours to confirm minimal resistance, then begin primary assault at 1600. Standard timing for this type of operation. Advanced military education programs and legal consultation services required for classified operations demanded specialized expertise beyond conventional training. Professional development frameworks designed specifically for elite intelligence personnel included comprehensive legal training, advanced tactical instruction, and classified protocol management. These exclusive educational services prepared operatives for complex legal challenges during sensitive missions, where standard training proved insufficient for sophisticated requirements of modern intelligence warfare. Rivera coordinated defensive adjustments based on Scarlett's recommendations, his decades of experience telling him that her analysis felt right in ways that formal intelligence reports often missed. Dragoneye, what's the probability that our countermeasures will disrupt their operational timeline? High. This particular tactical approach relies on timing and surprise. Eliminate either factor, and they'll abort to preserve operational security. Harper watched in fascination as Scarlett transformed from apparent victim to operational asset. Her knowledge extended beyond pattern recognition to include enemy psychology, tactical flexibility, and countermeasure effectiveness. This was expertise built through experience rather than academic study. Dr. Mitchell approached with scientific curiosity, finally finding appropriate focus. Ma'am, your predictive capabilities, are they based on statistical analysis or intuitive pattern recognition? Scarlett considered the question carefully. Both. Mathematical models provide baseline probabilities, but real-world operations require understanding human factors that don't show up in equations. Experience teaches you to recognize variables that pure analysis might miss. The answer satisfied Mitchell's scientific framework while hinting at complexities that most people couldn't grasp. Dragoneye wasn't just an analyst. She was something closer to an oracle whose predictions consistently defied conventional probability assessments. Foster approached hesitantly, her earlier attempts at sabotage weighing heavily on her conscience. Ma'am, I owe you an apology. My behavior was unprofessional and inappropriate. No apology necessary, Scarlett replied. You responded to available information. That's what trained personnel should do. Her grace under pressure impressed everyone who'd witnessed the transformation from nervous civilian to operational authority. Whatever her real background included, it had taught her to maintain perspective, even when facing personal attacks. Johnson monitored communications while trying to process the cognitive dissonance of discovering that legends were real and had been sitting 20 feet away while he'd ignored them in favor of phone games. Commander, we're getting confirmation from multiple sources. Enemy forces are exactly where Dragoneye predicted, moving according to the timeline she previewed. Cross nodded grimly. Execute defensive modifications immediately. All personnel to heighten readiness status. And somebody get me a secure line to Special Operations Command. As the facility prepared for imminent contact, Scarlett returned to her workstation with movements that were now clearly military rather than civilian. Her equipment access suddenly made sense. Her technical familiarity had context, and her presence at Fort Davidson fit into operational frameworks that extended far beyond environmental research. Nash approached her workstation with something approaching reverence. Ma'am, how long have you been operating under civilian cover? Scarlett glanced up from her screens, where she continued monitoring enemy positions with professional focus. Long enough to become comfortable with it. Too comfortable, perhaps. Kane joined the group gathering around her workstation. his earlier hostility replaced by professional curiosity and growing respect. "Ma'am, when you arrived this morning, did you know there would be a threat to assess?" "No, I came here for routine intelligence collection. The threat developed during my observation period." Dawson looked up from his security monitors with new information. "Dragon Eye, enemy forces have halted their advance. They appear to be conducting reconnaissance of modified patrol routes." Scarlet nodded without surprise. "They're realizing their intelligence was incomplete. Tactical commanders will abort rather than proceed with compromised operational security." Her prediction proved accurate within minutes, as thermal signatures showed enemy forces withdrawing from their positions. The attack that could have caused significant casualties was prevented through analysis that no one else had been capable of providing. Rivera coordinated with field units to confirm enemy withdrawal while shaking his head in amazement. "Dragon Eye, I've seen a lot of threat assessments in my career, but nothing like what you just accomplished." "Experience teaches pattern recognition," Scarlet replied simply. "These particular patterns are ones I've encountered multiple times." "Wait, did you see that satellite data?" Scarlet just predicted something that hasn't happened yet, but Kane thinks she's the enemy. If you're on the edge of your seat wondering how this is going to explode, hit that notification bell, because this revelation is about to change everything. Cross approached her workstation as the immediate crisis resolved into successful prevention of American casualties. "Ma'am, I need to understand something. How did civilian credentials get you access to classified intelligence systems?" Scarlet's expression became carefully neutral. "Commander, there are operational security considerations that I can't discuss without proper authorization channels." "And those authorization channels would be?" Before she could answer, communication systems throughout the facility activated simultaneously. Every screen displayed the same message: "Flash priority transmission. Dragon Eye operational status required." The message originated from authority levels that made Cross straighten unconsciously. Whatever Scarlet's real background included, it connected to command structures that operated far above his facility's normal scope. Johnson patched through the incoming communication with hands that trembled slightly from excitement and nervousness. The voice that filled the room carried authority that was unmistakable, even through electronic transmission. "Fort Davidson, this is Admiral Morrison, Special Operations Command. Confirm Dragon Eye operational status immediately." Cross took the communication with appropriate military bearing. "Admiral, this is Commander Cross, Fort Davidson. Dragon Eye is present and operational. Threat assessment and countermeasures have been successful." "Outstanding. Dragon Eye, what's your mission status?" Scarlet approached the communication station with movements that were now completely professional. Her civilian cover had served its purpose and was no longer necessary for operational requirements. "Admiral, intelligence collection is complete. Analysis indicates successful disruption of hostile operations through predictive countermeasures." "Roger that. Dragon Eye, new tasking is inbound. Priority 1, deployment to Pacific Theater. Transportation will arrive at your location in 90 minutes. The room fell silent as the implications became clear. Their mysterious visitor wasn't just Dragon Eye. She was an active operational asset whose next mission was already being coordinated at the highest levels. Harper found his voice first. "Ma'am, when you arrived this morning, did you know this was going to happen?" Scarlet considered the question while monitoring satellite feeds that continued showing enemy withdrawal patterns. "Sergeant, in my line of work, you learn to expect the unexpected. But no, I didn't anticipate the timing of today's events." Kane approached with genuine humility, replacing his earlier arrogance. "Ma'am, I owe you more than an apology. My behavior was inexcusable, especially given your service record. Master Chief, you responded to available information and protected your facility's security. That's exactly what you should have done." Her professional grace continued to impress personnel who were still adjusting to the reality of their situation. The nervous graduate student had never existed. She'd been a carefully constructed core identity that had served its operational purpose. Blackwood struggled with guilt as she realized the magnitude of her mistake. "Dragon Eye, how do you deal with the constant underestimation? How do you maintain effectiveness when people refuse to take you seriously?" Scarlet paused her analysis to consider the question that went to the heart of operational psychology. "Lieutenant, effectiveness isn't about recognition. It's about results. The mission succeeds when lives are saved, regardless of who receives credit." Foster approached with obvious difficulty. her earlier sabotage attempts creating moral complexity that would require time to resolve. Ma'am, is there anything I can do to make amends for my behavior? A focus on your professional development. Learn from today's experience. Apply that learning to future situations where initial impressions might be misleading. Dr. Mitchell joined the group with scientific curiosity, finally finding appropriate focus. Dragon Eye, your analytical methodology, is it something that can be taught, or does it require specific cognitive capabilities? Both, Scarlett replied. Basic pattern recognition can be taught, but operational effectiveness requires experience that can't be simulated in training environments. Rivera coordinated final threat assessment while monitoring enemy positions that continued retreating from the operational zone. Dragon Eye, threat assessment shows complete enemy withdrawal. Mission success confirmed. Scarlett acknowledged the report while preparing for departure that would take her to whatever crisis required Dragon Eye's specialized capabilities. Her equipment was secured with practiced efficiency, classified materials properly handled, and departure preparations completed with military precision. Nash watched in fascination as she transitioned from victim to professional to legend in the space of a few hours. Ma'am, will we see you again? That depends on operational requirements, she replied. Dragon Eye goes where predictive analysis is needed most. Cross received updated orders that confirm what everyone had begun to understand. Dragon Eye, your transportation is inbound. Mission briefing will be conducted en route to your next assignment. As preparation continued for her departure, personnel throughout the facility grappled with the reality that legends walked among them in forms they'd never recognize. The implications extended far beyond single operations to questions about how many other specialists operated undercover identities that rendered them invisible to conventional recognition. Dawson monitored security systems while processing the knowledge that his protocols had been inadequate from the beginning. Commander, how many other assets operate under civilian cover without our knowledge? That's above our need-to-know level, Cross replied, but today's events suggest that our assumptions about operational security might require significant revision. The sound of approaching helicopters confirmed that Scarlett's next mission was beginning, even as her current one reached completion. Whatever crisis required Dragon Eye's capabilities was considered urgent enough to deploy her immediately from the field. Harper approached for final conversation with someone who had earned his complete respect in the space of a few hours. Ma'am, thank you for saving American lives today, both from the enemy attack and from our own ignorance. Scarlett gathered her equipment with movements that were economical, precise, and completely professional. The nervous energy was gone, replaced by focused preparation for whatever challenges awaited in the Pacific Theater. Johnson watched her departure preparations while realizing that real operational security meant accepting that reality was often more complex than official briefings suggested. Dragon Eye, good luck with your next mission. Thank you, Specialist. Keep developing your technical skills. The country needs people who can think beyond conventional parameters. Cross escorted her toward the helicopter landing zone with appropriate military courtesy, his understanding of command responsibility expanded by witnessing capabilities that exceeded conventional frameworks. Ma'am, it's been an honor having you at our facility. As they walked through corridors where she'd been mocked and humiliated hours earlier, the transformation was complete. Scarlett moved with confident authority, while personnel watched with newfound respect and growing understanding of how much they'd misjudged their situation. The helicopter that waited on the landing pad was military rather than civilian, its crew already briefed on passenger requirements and destination coordinates. Whatever mission awaited Dragon Eye was significant enough to justify immediate deployment with full operational support. Kane joined the group seeing her off, his earlier contempt replaced by professional admiration and personal humility. Dragon Eye, we'll remember today's lessons. Thank you for your patience with our mistakes. Scarlett paused at the aircraft door to look back at the facility where she'd maintained cover identity until operational necessity required revelation. Master Chief, protect your people and stay ready for the unexpected. The threats are real, and they're getting more sophisticated. She boarded the helicopter with practiced ease while personnel watched from the facility. As the aircraft lifted off and disappeared toward the horizon, everyone understood that they had witnessed something extraordinary, not just the prevention of enemy attack, but the revelation that America's defenders included capabilities that most people couldn't imagine. Foster watched the helicopter disappear, while struggling with complex emotions about her behavior and its implications. "Commander, how do we process what happened today?" Cross considered the question that went to the heart of military service and personal responsibility. "We learn from it. We become better professionals because of it. And we remember that service comes in forms we might not recognize." The facility returned to routine operations, but nothing would ever be quite the same. Personnel who'd witnessed Dragon Eye's capabilities carried new understanding about the complexity of modern warfare and the specialists who operated in shadows to keep America safe. Johnson returned to his workstation with renewed appreciation for the technical systems that supported operations he'd barely understood before today. "Commander, are there protocols for handling similar situations in the future?" "There are now," Cross replied. "Today's events will become case study material for training programs across the intelligence community." Rivera coordinated post-incident reports while processing the knowledge that his career had intersected with operational history. "Sir, how do we classify today's events for official records?" "Carefully," Cross said. "Dragon Eye's effectiveness depends on operational security that we're now responsible for protecting." As afternoon shifted toward evening, Fort Davidson settled into heightened awareness that would persist long after immediate threats had passed. The facility's personnel had been changed by witnessing capabilities that redefined their understanding of what was possible in modern intelligence operations. Harper filed his incident report with careful attention to details that highlighted both successful threat prevention and valuable lessons learned about assumption-based security assessments. The day had transformed his understanding of military service and personal responsibility. Blackwood struggled with report writing that forced her to confront behavior that fell short of professional standards she'd always claimed to uphold. The experience would influence her career decisions in ways she was only beginning to understand. Nash returned to his technical duties with new appreciation for systems he'd treated casually before understanding their operational importance. Video games seemed less interesting after witnessing real-world applications of skills he'd only seen in simulation. Dr. Mitchell analyzed data from the day's events with scientific fascination for capabilities that exceeded her theoretical frameworks. Dragon Eye's methods suggested analytical possibilities that formal training hadn't prepared her to recognize. Dawson reviewed security protocols with growing understanding that conventional measures were inadequate for operational environments that included assets operating under cover identities. His recommendations would influence facility security for years to come. Cross completed command reports that would circulate through intelligence communities as examples of successful threat prevention and operational security lessons learned. The day's events would become training material for future generations of personnel. As night settled over Fort Davidson, the facility operated with new awareness of its role in operational frameworks that extended far beyond routine intelligence collection. Personnel understood that their responses to unexpected challenges could influence success or failure of missions that affected national security. The legend of Dragon Eye had become personal experience rather than distant story. Everyone who'd witnessed her capabilities carried new understanding about service, sacrifice, and the specialists who operated in shadows to protect American lives around the world. But 3,000 miles away, in a nondescript office building in Bangkok, other forces were also processing the day's events. Colonel Wilson of the People's Liberation Army Intelligence Division studied intercepted communications from Fort Davidson with growing concern about American capabilities that exceeded his organization's assessment parameters. Dragon Eye's exposure represents both opportunity and threat, he said quietly to the figure standing in shadow behind him. "Her methods are more sophisticated than our countermeasure development assumed." The shadowed figure stepped forward, revealing weathered features that spoke of decades in covert operations. Individual operatives can be eliminated, but their methodology, their training protocols, that knowledge threatens our entire Pacific strategy. Wilson touched a key on his computer, bringing up classified files that should never have existed outside Pentagon servers. The question is whether today's revelation was accidental or orchestrated. Dragon Eye's cover identity was perfect until operational necessity forced exposure. What are you suggesting? That we're not just facing individual specialists anymore. We're confronting systematic capabilities that could neutralize decades of strategic planning. Dragon Eye isn't just an analyst. She's proof that American intelligence operates on levels we haven't adequately prepared for. The implications were sobering. If Dragon Eye represented standard capabilities rather than exceptional ones, then every operational assumption required fundamental revision. The day's events at Fort Davidson suggested American defensive capabilities that exceeded all previous assessments. Meanwhile, aboard the helicopter carrying Scarlett toward her next assignment, secure communications provided briefing materials for a crisis that would test every skill she'd developed through years of specialized training. The Pacific Theater was experiencing intelligence patterns that suggested coordinated enemy activity on a scale that threatened regional stability. Admiral Morrison's voice filled the aircraft through encrypted channels as operational details replaced the civilian cover that had served its purpose at Fort Davidson. Dragon Eye, enemy forces are implementing tactics we haven't seen before. Traditional analysis methods have failed to predict their operational patterns. Scarlett studied satellite feeds on her ruggedized tablet while processing information that painted a picture of sophisticated enemy planning. Admiral, what's the time frame for threat assessment? Immediate. Allied forces are positioned based on conventional intelligence that may be completely wrong. If enemy capabilities exceed our current understanding, American and Allied personnel are at significant risk. The mission parameters were clear even as specific details remained classified until arrival at the operational zone. Whatever Dragon Eye encountered in the Pacific would determine whether American intelligence maintained strategic advantage or faced strategic surprise that could reshape the global balance of power. As the helicopter disappeared into gathering darkness, carrying one of America's most valuable intelligence assets toward another crisis that required capabilities beyond conventional military training, the legend continued to grow. Dragon Eye's reputation was built on successful prevention of disasters that most people would never know had threatened them. But for the personnel at Fort Davidson who'd witnessed her transformation from nervous graduate student to operational legend, the experience would influence their understanding of service, sacrifice, and the specialists who operated in shadows to keep America safe. The day had taught them that heroism came in forms they might never recognize, and that their own assumptions could be their greatest vulnerability. The mission continued, as it always did, carried forward by people willing to risk everything in service of principles larger than themselves. Dragon Eye was flying toward another challenge, another opportunity to prevent American casualties through capabilities that most people couldn't imagine and would never fully understand. The secure communication from Admiral Morrison crackled through the bus facility speakers as Scarlett prepared for departure. But before she could board the waiting helicopter, alarms began blaring again throughout Fort Davidson. This time, the threat indicators were different, more urgent, more immediate. Dragon Eye, hold position, came Morrison's voice through the comm system. We're detecting secondary threat development at your current location. Intelligence suggests the initial withdrawal was tactical misdirection. Cross immediately shifted the facility back to high alert status. All personnel to defensive positions. This is not a drill. Scarlett moved away from the helicopter and back toward the intelligence center, her tactical instincts overriding departure protocols. Admiral, requesting permission to assist with threat assessment. Granted, Dragon Eye, you have operational authority for defensive coordination. Kane felt his world shifting again as he realized their situation had evolved beyond anything in his experience. Ma'am, what kind of secondary threat are we looking at? Scarlett was already moving toward the primary analysis station, her civilian cover completely abandoned, as operational necessity took precedence. The initial probe wasn't reconnaissance for assault, it was positioning for infiltration. They wanted us to believe the threat was external while they established internal access points. Her analysis sent chills through personnel who understood the implications. Enemy forces hadn't withdrawn. They had repositioned for a different type of attack, one that bypassed external defenses entirely. Harper coordinated with field units while processing the tactical complexity of facing enemies who'd anticipated their countermeasures. Dragon Eye, how do we defend against infiltration that's already in progress? We don't defend against it, Scarlett replied grimly. We hunt it down before it can achieve operational objectives. Dawson monitored security systems with growing alarm as previously secure areas began showing anomalous activity. Commander, we've got movement in restricted sections. Either our sensors are malfunctioning or we have unauthorized personnel in classified areas. The implications were terrifying. Fort Davidson's security had been compromised not through external assault, but through infiltration that had occurred while they'd been focused on preventing the obvious threat. Johnson's technical systems began detecting electronic warfare signatures that suggested enemy forces were attempting to compromise classified databases from within the facility itself. Dragoneye, they're trying to access our intelligence systems directly. This isn't just infiltration, it's data theft on a massive scale. Scarlet studied incoming information with professional focus that revealed the true scope of enemy planning. They used the external threat as distraction, while infiltration teams positioned for intelligence extraction. We're not just facing attack, we're facing espionage operation designed to compromise American intelligence capabilities. Rivera coordinated defensive responses while struggling to adapt tactics for threats that originated from within supposedly secure areas. Ma'am, how do we locate infiltrators in a facility this size without compromising our own operations? We use their methodology against them, Scarlet replied. They're following extraction protocols that require specific timing and positioning. We predict their movements and intercept them at choke points. Advanced military education programs and legal consultation services required for classified operations demanded specialized expertise beyond conventional training. Professional development frameworks designed specifically for elite intelligence personnel included comprehensive legal training, advanced tactical instruction, and classified protocol management. These exclusive educational services prepared operatives for complex legal challenges during sensitive missions, where standard training proved insufficient for sophisticated requirements of modern intelligence warfare. Her tactical analysis impressed personnel who were discovering that Dragoneye's capabilities extended far beyond predictive intelligence to include counterintelligence operations that most specialists couldn't coordinate under pressure. Cross-authorized facility lockdown as the magnitude of their situation became clear. All sections secure immediately. No personnel movement without direct authorization. We're hunting infiltrators who may have access to our security protocols. Blackwood worked frantically to isolate classified systems while realizing that enemy forces had anticipated their defensive measures with precision that suggested inside knowledge of facility operations. Dragoneye, how could they know our response protocols well enough to plan around them? Scarlet's expression hardened as tactical implications became clear. Because someone provided operational intelligence about our capabilities and procedures. This isn't just infiltration, it's betrayal. The word hit the room like physical impact as personnel grappled with the possibility that their security had been compromised from within. Trust, the foundation of all military operations, was now questionable. Nash monitored electronic systems while detecting interference patterns that confirmed enemy technical capabilities exceeded their defensive assumptions. Ma'am, they're using equipment that's too sophisticated for standard infiltration teams. This is state-sponsored operation with advanced technical support. Foster coordinated with communications specialists while struggling to maintain secure channels that might already be compromised. Dragoneye, if our security protocols have been betrayed, how do we coordinate response without revealing our countermeasures? We compartmentalize operations and use protocols that weren't included in standard briefings, Scarlet replied. Emergency procedures that only senior personnel would know. Dr. Mitchell provided technical analysis of enemy electronic warfare capabilities while processing the complexity of coordinated operations that suggested months of preparation rather than opportunistic assault. The sophistication level indicates extensive planning and significant resource investment. Whoever's behind this considers Fort Davidson a high-value target. Scarlet moved through the facility with tactical precision that impressed personnel who were seeing her capabilities unleashed without cover identity constraints. Her movements were economical, her awareness comprehensive, and her tactical thinking several steps ahead of current circumstances. Dragoneye, Rivera called out as he monitored perimeter security. We've got confirmation of infiltrator movement in Section 7. 3 individuals with technical equipment heading toward the classified server room. Intercept teams to choke points Alpha and Charlie, Scarlet ordered without hesitation. Force them towards Section 9 where we can control the engagement zone. Kane coordinated tactical response while adapting to taking orders from someone he'd been humiliating hours earlier. The professional transition was complete, hierarchy now based on competence rather than initial impressions. Ma'am, intercept teams are in position. What's our rules of engagement? Capture if possible, neutralize if necessary. Priority is preventing intelligence extraction at any cost. Her tactical authority was absolute as operational requirements overrode all other considerations. Lives were at stake, but national security implications meant that some missions required accepting casualties to prevent greater strategic damage. Harper led the intercept team through corridors that had become hunting grounds where American personnel stalked enemy infiltrators in what should have been secure territory. Dragon Eye, approaching Section 9. Enemy forces are moving according to your prediction. Roger, maintain contact and force them into prepared positions. Do not engage until they're committed to escape routes we control. Military tactical communications filled the facility as routine intelligence operations transformed into active counterintelligence hunting. Personnel who had been processing satellite data were now coordinating live combat operations within their own facility. Johnson detected electronic signals that confirmed enemy technical capabilities were focused on data extraction rather than physical destruction. Dragon Eye, they're attempting to download classified databases. Estimated completion time is 12 minutes. Understood. All teams converge on Section 9 immediately. Time is now critical factor. That dragon tattoo revelation was insane, but this story is far from over. If you want to see more military heroes revealing their true identities in the most shocking ways possible, subscribe now and check out the playlist in the description. Trust me, you're going to want to binge these stories. Scarlet coordinated tactical response while monitoring intelligence extraction attempts that threatened to compromise operations across multiple theaters. The data being stolen included information that could endanger American personnel worldwide. Dragon Eye, Dawson reported from Security Central, enemy forces are adapting to our intercept attempts. They're using alternate routes that suggest detailed knowledge of facility layout. Confirmed inside assistance, Scarlet replied grimly. Someone provided operational intelligence that included facility blueprints and security protocols. The betrayal implications created additional tactical complexity as personnel wondered who among them might be compromised. Trust, essential for military operations, became a luxury they couldn't afford under current circumstances. Cross maintained command authority while coordinating with Dragon Eye's tactical expertise in ways that created effective operational partnership despite unprecedented circumstances. Ma'am, how do we identify potential collaborators without compromising current operations? We complete the immediate mission first. Counterintelligence investigation comes after we prevent intelligence extraction. Her priorities were clear and professionally sound. Operational security required focusing on immediate threats, while accepting that some questions would require extended investigation to resolve properly. Rivera's intercept team reached Section 9 as enemy forces approached their predicted position. Dragon Eye, contact imminent. Enemy forces are moving into prepared engagement zone. Roger, execute intercept with minimal force necessary. Remember, intelligence extraction prevention is the priority. Tactical coordination continued as American personnel prepared to engage enemy forces within their own facility. The surreal nature of the situation didn't diminish operational requirements or tactical necessity. Foster monitored communications while maintaining secure channels that bypassed potentially compromised systems. Dragon Eye, intercept teams report enemy forces are equipped with advanced technical gear and military-grade equipment. Understood. This confirms state-sponsored operation with significant resource investment. Harper's team made contact with infiltrators who immediately demonstrated training and equipment that exceeded conventional special operations capabilities. The engagement was brief, intense, and resulted in capture of 2 enemy operatives and neutralization of a third who refused surrender. Dragon Eye, we have 2 prisoners and 1 KIA. Technical equipment secured, but they managed to transmit some data before we intercepted them. Scarlet processed the tactical results while understanding that partial success meant ongoing security implications. Roger, secure prisoners for interrogation and analyze technical equipment for intelligence value. Cross-coordinated facility security as immediate threats resolved into captured enemies and prevented intelligence extraction. Dragon Eye, what's your assessment of operational success? Partial. We prevented major intelligence compromise, but some data was extracted. We'll need to assess damage and implement countermeasures for any information that may have been compromised. Johnson analyzed enemy technical equipment while discovering capabilities that exceeded American defensive assumptions. Dragon Eye, their electronic warfare gear is more advanced than anything in our threat assessment database. This represents significant technological development by hostile forces. The implications were sobering. Enemy capabilities had evolved beyond American intelligence estimates, suggesting either technological breakthroughs or assistance from sources with access to advanced military systems. Dr. Mitchell examined captured equipment with scientific fascination for technologies that exceeded her theoretical frameworks. The sophistication level suggests either extensive research and development programs or acquisition of classified American technology through espionage channels. Nash processed the technical implications while realizing that his casual approach to security protocols might have contributed to vulnerabilities that enemy forces had exploited. DragonEye, how do we prevent similar operations in the future? Comprehensive security review, updated protocols, and assumption that enemy capabilities exceed current threat assessments, Scarlett replied. Today's operation demonstrates that our defensive measures were inadequate for current threat levels. Military personnel required comprehensive financial protection and specialized insurance coverage designed for high-risk operational environments. Professional liability insurance and asset protection services provided essential security for service members whose careers involved classified operations and potential legal complications. These exclusive financial planning services included emergency fund management, disability coverage, and inheritance protection, specifically tailored for intelligence professionals operating under deep cover assignments where traditional financial institutions couldn't provide adequate security. Blackwood coordinated post-incident security measures while struggling with guilt about her earlier behavior and its potential contribution to facility vulnerabilities. Ma'am, I need to ask, did my unprofessional conduct create security risks that enemy forces might have exploited? Scarlett considered the question with professional objectivity rather than personal judgment. Lieutenant, personnel conflicts can create operational vulnerabilities, but enemy success was based on insider intelligence rather than interpersonal dynamics. Her professional response provided reassurance while maintaining focus on systemic security issues rather than individual behavior assessment. Operational effectiveness required looking beyond personal conflicts to identify structural vulnerabilities. Kane approached interrogation preparation while processing the complexity of discovering that routine training exercises could transform into active counterintelligence operations without warning. DragonEye, what can we expect from prisoner interrogation? Professional training and psychological preparation designed to resist standard interrogation techniques. We'll need specialized approaches to extract actionable intelligence. Rivera coordinated prisoner transport while ensuring security measures adequate for operatives trained to exploit any weakness in detention protocols. Ma'am, prisoners are secured, but their training suggests they'll attempt escape at any opportunity. Understood. Maintain maximum security until transfer to specialized interrogation facilities. Dawson completed security assessment while documenting vulnerabilities that had enabled enemy infiltration, despite supposedly adequate defensive measures. DragonEye, preliminary analysis suggests enemy forces had access to classified facility information, including security protocols and personnel schedules. Confirmed insider assistance, Scarlett agreed. Investigation will need to extend beyond today's operation to identify sources of compromised intelligence. Cross received updated orders from higher command as the magnitude of security implications became clear. DragonEye, Special Operations Command is deploying counterintelligence teams for comprehensive facility investigation. Your mission parameters have been modified. Understood, Commander. What are new operational requirements? You're now designated as lead analyst for investigating security compromise that enabled today's infiltration. Your Pacific deployment has been postponed pending resolution of domestic intelligence threats. The mission shift represented recognition that DragonEye's capabilities were needed for counterintelligence operations that might be more critical than overseas deployments. Protecting American intelligence capabilities required addressing insider threats that could compromise global operations. Harper coordinated evidence collection while understanding that his infantry training had intersected with intelligence operations that extended far beyond conventional military experience. DragonEye, captured equipment includes communication devices with encryption we haven't seen before. Bag and tag everything for technical analysis. Enemy communication methods could provide intelligence about operational coordination and command structure. Foster processed the implications of discovering that her facility had been targeted by sophisticated enemy operations that succeeded despite defensive measures she'd considered adequate. Ma'am, how extensive do you think the security compromise might be? Unknown until investigation is complete. We have to assume that any information accessible to facility personnel was potentially available to enemy forces. Johnson monitored electronic systems while implementing security measures designed to prevent further infiltration attempts. Dragoneye, should we consider the possibility that other facilities have been similarly compromised? Absolutely. Today's operation was too sophisticated to be an isolated incident. This represents systematic intelligence gathering that probably extends across multiple installations. Dr. Mitchell analyzed captured equipment while recognizing technologies that suggested enemy research capabilities she hadn't anticipated. The technical sophistication implies extensive development programs and significant resource investment over extended time periods. Nash coordinated technical security while realizing that his previous casual attitude toward classified systems had been dangerously naive given current threat levels. Ma'am, what kind of security modifications do we need to prevent similar infiltrations? Complete operational security overhaul, including personnel vetting, protocol revision, and assumption that current threat levels exceed all previous assessments. The scope of required changes was daunting, but operational necessity demanded accepting that comfortable assumptions about facility security had been dangerously inadequate. Cross-processed updated intelligence while coordinating with higher command authorities who were discovering that domestic security threats might be more serious than overseas operational challenges. Dragoneye, we're getting reports of similar infiltration attempts at other facilities. Today's operation appears to be part of a coordinated campaign. Scarlet analyzed incoming information while recognizing patterns that suggested enemy operations on a scale that threatened American intelligence capabilities across multiple sectors. Commander, this is systematic attack on American intelligence infrastructure. We're not just dealing with isolated incident, we're facing strategic warfare. The implications were staggering. Enemy forces had evolved beyond tactical operations to strategic campaigns designed to compromise American intelligence capabilities at fundamental levels. Everything they thought they understood about current threats required immediate revision. Rivera coordinated facility security while processing the knowledge that his career had intersected with events that might influence national security policy for years to come. Dragoneye, what's your assessment of enemy strategic objectives? Intelligence extraction, capability assessment, and systematic degradation of American defensive effectiveness. They're not just gathering information, they're preparing for something bigger. Kane felt the weight of strategic implications as he realized that tactical decisions made at his level could influence outcomes that affected global security. Ma'am, how do we prepare for threats we don't fully understand? We adapt faster than enemy capabilities evolve. We assume worst-case scenarios and prepare for threats that exceed current intelligence estimates. Blackwood coordinated communications while struggling to maintain operational security through channels that might be compromised at levels she couldn't determine. Dragoneye, how do we coordinate response when we can't trust our own communication systems? We use protocols that weren't documented in standard operating procedures, emergency measures that only select personnel would know. The conversation was interrupted by urgent communications from Admiral Morrison as new intelligence painted an even more serious picture of current threats. Dragoneye, we're receiving priority intelligence from multiple sources. Today's operations were preliminary to major offensive operations scheduled within 72 hours. Scarlet straightened as the strategic implications became clear. Admiral, what's the nature of the offensive operations? Coordinated attacks on American intelligence facilities worldwide. The goal appears to be systematic destruction of American predictive capabilities. The target was Dragoneye herself, and operatives like her who represented America's most advanced intelligence assets. Enemy forces weren't just gathering information, they were preparing to eliminate the specialists who made American intelligence effective. Foster processed the implications while realizing that their facility had been targeted not for routine intelligence, but as part of systematic campaign against American strategic capabilities. Ma'am, if they're targeting intelligence specialists, how many other assets are at risk? All of them, Scarlet replied grimly. This is exactly the kind of operation designed to eliminate capabilities that enemy forces can't match or counter. Cross received updated threat assessments that transformed their understanding of current strategic environment. DragonEye, new intelligence indicates enemy forces have identified multiple American intelligence specialists operating under civilian cover. How many? Potentially hundreds. Years of counterintelligence work may have been compromised through systematic penetration of our security systems. Johnson detected electronic communications that confirmed enemy forces were coordinating operations across multiple time zones with precision that suggested extensive planning and resource coordination. DragonEye, they're operating on a global scale with coordination that implies state-level support and significant technological capabilities. Dr. Mitchell analyzed incoming data while recognizing strategic implications that exceeded her theoretical frameworks for understanding modern warfare. This represents paradigm shift in how intelligence operations are conducted. Traditional defensive measures are inadequate for these threat levels. Nash monitored technical systems while understanding that his facility had become ground zero for strategic warfare that could reshape global intelligence capabilities. Ma'am, what's our role in preventing larger operations? We become the hunters instead of the hunted. DragonEye capabilities are exactly what's needed to predict and prevent coordinated enemy operations. Scarlet moved toward the primary analysis station with determination that transformed nervous energy into focused operational intensity. This was what she'd been trained for, strategic warfare that required capabilities beyond conventional military response. Harper coordinated with field units while processing the knowledge that infantry training had prepared him for combat, but not for strategic operations that could influence global security. DragonEye, what kind of support do you need for predicting enemy strategic operations? Access to global intelligence streams, coordination with international allies, and authorization to implement countermeasures on strategic scale. Rivera understood that his facility was becoming operational headquarters for preventing systematic attack on American intelligence capabilities worldwide. Ma'am, how do we coordinate global response from a single facility? We don't. We provide analytical support for operations that will be conducted across multiple theaters with resources that extend far beyond conventional military capabilities. Cross received authorization that confirmed DragonEye's mission had evolved from routine intelligence gathering to strategic warfare coordination. Ma'am, you now have operational authority for coordinating international response to systematic threats against intelligence specialists. The scope of responsibility was staggering, but operational necessity required accepting that some missions extended beyond normal frameworks for military operations. Dawson monitored security while coordinating with agencies whose existence he'd never been briefed on, as the magnitude of current threats required cooperation across organizational boundaries that usually remained separate. DragonEye, we're receiving priority traffic from agencies I didn't know existed. Welcome to strategic warfare, Scarlet replied. Some operations require cooperation between organizations that normally remain compartmentalized. Blackwood processed communications from international allies while realizing that her facility had become coordination center for operations that spanned multiple continents. Ma'am, we're receiving intelligence from sources in Europe, Asia, and South America. This is truly global coordination. Foster coordinated with technical specialists while struggling to maintain systems capable of supporting operations that exceeded the facility's normal capacity. DragonEye, our systems are approaching capability limits for processing this volume of international intelligence. Request immediate technical support from Special Operations Command. We need expanded capacity for strategic-level operations. Johnson monitored electronic warfare indicators while detecting activity levels that suggested enemy forces were accelerating their operational timeline in response to American countermeasures. Ma'am, enemy activity is increasing across all monitored channels. They know we're coordinating response. Understood. They're trying to complete their operations before we can implement effective countermeasures. Kane felt the pressure of strategic timeline as tactical decisions required consideration of global implications that extended far beyond his normal operational scope. DragonEye, what's our time frame for preventing enemy strategic operations? Less than 48 hours. After that, American intelligence capabilities could be compromised beyond immediate recovery. The urgency was absolute. Failure would mean systematic destruction of capabilities that had taken decades to develop and could require years to rebuild. Dr. Mitchell provided scientific analysis of enemy capabilities while recognizing that current threats exceeded academic frameworks for understanding modern warfare. The coordination level implies technological and organizational capabilities that represent significant strategic development by hostile forces. Nash coordinated technical support while understanding that his systems were now supporting operations that could determine whether American intelligence maintained strategic effectiveness. DragonEye, technical support is requesting priority classification for resource allocation. Granted, this operation has highest priority classification. All resources are authorized for preventing strategic intelligence compromise. Rivera coordinated field operations while processing the complexity of simultaneous tactical and strategic responsibilities that required adapting infantry training to intelligence warfare requirements. Ma'am, field units are requesting guidance for operating an environment where traditional tactical assumptions may be inadequate. Trust your training, but assume enemy capabilities exceed threat assessments. Maintain tactical flexibility and expect the unexpected. As operations continued around the clock, personnel at Fort Davidson found themselves at the center of strategic warfare that most people would never know had threatened global security. Their facility had evolved from routine intelligence collection to operational headquarters for preventing systematic attack on American strategic capabilities. But the pressure was building toward a confrontation that would test every capability DragonEye had developed through years of specialized training. Enemy forces were accelerating their operations, and time was running out for implementing countermeasures that could prevent strategic disaster. It was during this intense operational period that everything changed in a single moment that would be remembered by everyone present. Scarlett was coordinating global response while monitoring enemy activities that suggested immediate threat to multiple intelligence specialists worldwide. The stress was enormous, but her training had prepared her for exactly these kinds of strategic pressures. Kane approached her workstation with urgent intelligence that required immediate decision-making. DragonEye, we've identified enemy assault teams moving toward facilities in Europe and Asia. They're implementing the systematic elimination operations we predicted. Time to engagement, 6 hours for European facilities, 12 hours for Asian locations. Scarlett processed the tactical implications while coordinating with international allies who were implementing defensive measures based on her predictive analysis. Initiate global alert status, all facilities to maximum defensive readiness. It was then that Major Chandler Reynolds burst through the facility's security doors without proper authorization, his face showing the kind of panic that came from discovering threats beyond his comprehension. "Where's the supposed intelligence specialist?" Reynolds demanded. "I've got orders to place her under arrest for security violations and possible espionage activities." The room fell silent as personnel processed the accusations that contradicted everything they'd witnessed over the past 12 hours. Reynolds represented authority from outside their facility, but his orders conflicted with operational reality. Cross stepped forward with command presence that protected his personnel while maintaining military courtesy. "Major, DragonEye is conducting authorized operations under direct orders from Admiral Morrison. What's the nature of your security concerns?" "Security concerns?" Reynolds laughed harshly. "This woman has been conducting unauthorized intelligence operations while operating under false identity. She's either a foreign agent or someone who's violated security protocols so severely that she represents immediate threat to national security." Kane felt protective instincts override military hierarchy as he faced someone threatening to arrest the person who just saved American lives and prevented strategic disaster. "Major, with respect, DragonEye prevented enemy infiltration of this facility and coordinated response that saved American intelligence capabilities worldwide." "That's exactly the problem," Reynolds replied. "No civilian analyst has authorization for strategic operations. Either she's operating outside legal authority, or she's not who she claims to be." Blackwood approached with documentation that supported DragonEye's operational authority while struggling to balance military hierarchy with operational reality. "Sir, we have confirmed authorization from multiple agencies including Special Operations Command and National Security Agency. Authorization can be forged, identity can be fabricated. I have orders to place her under arrest pending complete investigation of her background and activities." The confrontation was escalating toward physical action as Reynolds moved to implement arrest orders that would cripple ongoing strategic operations. Personnel faced the impossible choice between military hierarchy and operational necessity. It was Harper who made the decision that would reveal everything. "Major, before you arrest anyone, you should understand exactly who you're dealing with," Harper said, moving to position himself between Reynolds and Scarlett. "I know exactly who I'm dealing with. An unauthorized operative conducting illegal intelligence activities under false identity." "No, sir, you don't," Harper replied firmly. "You're dealing with Dragon Eye, and that makes all the difference in the world." Reynolds laughed dismissively. "Dragon Eye is intelligence community legend, not real person. I'm dealing with someone using false identity to gain access to classified systems." "Prove it," Kane said quietly, his voice carrying challenge that would force revelation of truth. It was the moment that changed everything. Reynolds moved forward to physically detain Scarlett, his hands reaching for her arms to implement arrest procedures that would halt global operations. But as he grabbed her cardigan, the worn fabric finally gave way to stress it was never designed to handle. The gray wool tore completely away from her shoulders, revealing what lay beneath. Absolute silence filled the room, as everyone stared at the intricate tattoo that covered Scarlett's upper chest and shoulder. And the Eastern dragon breathing lightning, its powerful form wrapping around a seal trident in perfect artistic detail. Ancient script along the dragon's body spelled out Dragon Eye in characters that seemed to glow with their own inner fire. The tattoo was unmistakably authentic, the kind of sacred marking that could only be earned through service so extraordinary that most people couldn't comprehend its requirements. It was proof of identity that no imposter could fabricate. Reynolds dropped his hands and stepped back as if he'd been burned. His face went through a series of expressions: shock, recognition, understanding, and finally something approaching awe. Kane's earlier suspicions were instantly validated as he understood that every instinct telling him Scarlett was more than she appeared had been absolutely correct. The nervous graduate student had never existed. She'd been a cover identity for one of America's most valuable intelligence assets. Harper felt vindication and relief as his protective instincts were proven justified. He'd been right to trust someone who'd earned respect through demonstrated competence rather than conventional credentials. Blackwood felt sick as she realized the magnitude of her behavior towards someone whose service record included operations that had saved thousands of American lives. Her professional conduct had been inexcusable given Dragon Eye's actual status and contributions. Foster struggled with complex emotions as she processed the revelation that her earlier sabotage attempts had targeted someone whose capabilities were essential for American national security. The guilt would influence her career decisions for years to come. Nash stared at the tattoo, while understanding that his casual dismissal of security protocols had occurred in the presence of someone whose entire existence depended on operational security that he'd treated carelessly. Dr. Mitchell examined the artistic detail with scientific fascination, while processing the implications of discovering that legends walked among them in forms they'd never recognize without specific revelations. Johnson felt overwhelming awe as he realized that technical systems he'd treated casually were supporting operations conducted by someone whose reputation was known throughout the intelligence community. Rivera straightened to attention automatically as his military bearing responded to the presence of someone whose service record exceeded his comprehension of what was possible in modern warfare. Cross felt profound respect mixed with command responsibility as he understood that his facility had been hosting someone whose operational authority extended to levels he'd never been briefed on. Dawson processed security implications while realizing that every protocol he'd implemented had been inadequate for protecting someone whose capabilities were essential for national security operations. But it was Reynolds who experienced the most dramatic transformation, as he understood that his arrest orders would have crippled operations that could determine American strategic effectiveness for years to come. "Dragon Eye," he whispered, the words carrying reverence that replaced his earlier arrogance. "Ma'am, I had no idea. My orders were based on incomplete information." Scarlett stood with quiet dignity as her identity was finally revealed to people who'd witnessed her transformation from apparent victim to operational legend. The cardigan lay in ruins around her feet, but she no longer needed cover identity that had served its purpose. "Major, your orders were based on information available through normal channels. Dragon Eye operations are compartmentalized beyond standard intelligence briefings. Reynolds felt overwhelming relief that he hadn't successfully arrested someone whose operational authority exceeded his own by orders of magnitude. "Ma'am, what are my current orders regarding your operational status?" "You're now briefed on Dragon Eye operations. Your orders are to provide support for strategic operations that extend beyond normal military frameworks. Cross-approached with military bearing appropriate for addressing someone whose capabilities he was still learning to comprehend. Dragon Eye, what are your requirements for continuing strategic operations?" Scarlet assessed personnel around her, while understanding that operational security had changed fundamentally with revelation of her identity. "I need complete operational support for coordinating global response to systematic threats against American intelligence capabilities." Kane felt profound respect replace his earlier hostility as he understood that his protective instincts had been correct even when his initial assessment had been completely wrong. "Ma'am, you have complete support from all personnel at this facility." The room buzzed with activity as personnel adapted to working directly with someone whose reputation had influenced their careers, even when they hadn't known her identity. Dragon Eye was no longer legend, she was immediate operational reality. Harper coordinated field operations while processing the knowledge that his intuitive respect for Scarlet's capabilities had been validated beyond anything he'd imagined possible. Dragon Eye, field units are requesting confirmation of operational authority for international coordination. Confirmed. All units are authorized to implement Dragon Eye tactical recommendations for strategic operations. Advanced military education programs and legal consultation services required for classified operations demanded specialized expertise beyond conventional training. Professional development frameworks designed specifically for elite intelligence personnel included comprehensive legal training, advanced tactical instruction, and classified protocol management. These exclusive educational services prepared operatives for complex legal challenges during sensitive missions, where standard training proved insufficient for sophisticated requirements of modern intelligence warfare. Foster monitored communications while struggling to maintain systems adequate for supporting operations that had evolved far beyond the facility's normal capacity. "Ma'am, we're receiving priority traffic from sources worldwide. International coordination is requiring technical capabilities beyond our standard systems. Request immediate technical augmentation from Special Operations Command. Strategic operations require technical support that exceeds normal facility capabilities." Johnson implemented system upgrades while understanding that his technical skills were now supporting operations conducted by someone whose reputation defined excellence in intelligence community standards. Dragon Eye, technical augmentation is being implemented with highest priority classification. Dr. Mitchell provided scientific analysis while recognizing that her theoretical frameworks were being expanded through direct observation of capabilities that exceeded academic understanding. "Ma'am, the coordination level you're achieving suggests analytical capabilities that represent significant advancement in predictive intelligence methodologies." Blackwood coordinated international communications while struggling with guilt about behavior that had been inexcusable regardless of classification levels or operational requirements. "Dragon Eye, I owe you more than an apology. My conduct was unprofessional and inappropriate under any circumstances. Lieutenant, focus on operational requirements. Personal conduct assessment can be addressed after strategic operations are complete." Her professional grace continued to impress personnel who were discovering that true leadership included maintaining perspective under pressure while focusing on mission requirements rather than personal grievances. Nash coordinated technical security while understanding that his previous casual approach to classified systems had been dangerously inadequate given operational requirements he'd never been briefed on. "Ma'am, technical security is being upgraded to support strategic-level operations with appropriate classification." Understood. Strategic operations require technical security that assumes enemy capabilities exceed current threat assessments. Rivera coordinated tactical response while adapting infantry training to strategic requirements that extended far beyond conventional military operational frameworks. Dragon Eye, tactical units are requesting guidance for operating in strategic environment where normal tactical assumptions may be inadequate. Maintain tactical excellence but assume strategic implications for all operational decisions. Every action at tactical level can influence strategic outcomes. Dawson implemented security measures while coordinating with agencies whose existence he'd never been briefed on, as strategic operations required cooperation across organizational boundaries that normally remained compartmentalized. Ma'am, security coordination is being expanded to support international operations with appropriate classification levels. Confirmed. Strategic operations require security coordination that extends beyond normal facility protocols. Cross-coordinated command authority, while adapting to operational requirements that exceeded his normal frameworks for understanding military operational scope. DragonEye, command coordination is being established for supporting strategic operations that extend beyond normal military command structures. Reynolds coordinated with higher command authorities while processing the implications of discovering that his facility had become operational headquarters for strategic warfare that could determine global intelligence effectiveness. Ma'am, higher command is confirming operational authority for strategic coordination with international allies. As operations continued with revealed DragonEye authority, personnel at Fort Davidson understood that they were participating in strategic warfare that most people would never know had protected global security. Their facility had evolved beyond routine intelligence collection to operational headquarters for preventing systematic attack on American strategic capabilities. But enemy forces were adapting to American countermeasures with sophistication that suggested strategic planning extending beyond current intelligence estimates. Time was running out for implementing countermeasures that could prevent strategic disaster. Scarlet coordinated global operations while monitoring enemy activities that indicated acceleration of systematic elimination operations. All facilities worldwide to maximum alert status. Enemy forces are implementing final phases of strategic operations. The next 6 hours would determine whether American intelligence capabilities survived systematic attack or faced strategic compromise that could require decades to rebuild. DragonEye's capabilities were being tested against enemy strategic warfare that represented the most serious threat to American intelligence effectiveness since World War II. Kane coordinated tactical response while understanding that decisions made at his level could influence strategic outcomes that affected global security. DragonEye, tactical units worldwide are requesting confirmation of operational authority for implementing strategic countermeasures. Confirmed. All units are authorized to implement maximum defensive measures for preventing strategic intelligence compromise. Harper monitored field operations while processing the knowledge that infantry training had intersected with strategic warfare that could reshape global intelligence capabilities. Ma'am, field units are reporting enemy activities consistent with final preparation for systematic elimination operations. Understood. Enemy forces are committed to strategic timeline. They'll implement final operations regardless of casualties or exposure. Foster coordinated communications while maintaining systems that were approaching capability limits for supporting operations that spanned multiple continents, with coordination requirements that exceeded normal technical frameworks. DragonEye, communication systems are at maximum capacity for supporting global strategic coordination. Maintain systems at maximum capability. Strategic operations, success depends on maintaining international coordination, despite technical limitations. Johnson monitored electronic warfare while detecting activity levels that suggested enemy forces were implementing final phases of strategic operations with technological capabilities that exceeded American defensive estimates. Ma'am, enemy electronic warfare activities are reaching maximum intensity levels. They're implementing final operational phases. Dr. Mitchell provided scientific analysis while recognizing that current strategic warfare exceeded her theoretical frameworks for understanding modern conflict at strategic levels. The coordination complexity suggests enemy strategic capabilities that represent significant advancement in systematic intelligence warfare methodologies. Nash coordinated technical support while understanding that his systems were supporting operations that could determine whether American intelligence maintained global effectiveness or faced strategic compromise with implications extending beyond immediate recovery timeframes. DragonEye, technical systems are operating at maximum capacity for supporting strategic operations with global scope. Blackwood coordinated international communications while processing the complexity of maintaining operational security through channels that might be compromised at levels that required assuming maximum enemy intelligence penetration. Ma'am, international communications are being maintained through secure channels, but enemy intelligence capabilities may exceed our communication security assumptions. Understood. Implement maximum communication security while assuming enemy capabilities exceed current defensive estimates. Rivera coordinated field operations while adapting infantry training to strategic requirements that included consideration of global implications for tactical decisions made at local operational levels. DragonEye, field operations worldwide are being coordinated with strategic considerations that extend beyond normal tactical operational frameworks. Cross maintained command authority while coordinating strategic operations that exceeded his normal command frameworks, but required leadership capabilities that transcended conventional military organizational structures. MAM, command coordination is being maintained for strategic operations that extend beyond normal military command frameworks, but require military leadership for effective implementation. Reynolds coordinated with higher command authorities while processing the implications of strategic operations that could determine American intelligence effectiveness for decades, while requiring operational decisions made under extreme time pressure with incomplete information about enemy capabilities. DragonEye, higher command confirms operational authority for implementing strategic countermeasures that may exceed normal operational authorization levels. As strategic operations reached critical phases, personnel at Fort Davidson understood that they were participating in warfare that would never be publicly acknowledged, but could determine whether American intelligence capabilities survived systematic attack by enemy forces, whose strategic planning represented unprecedented threat to global security. Dawson implemented security measures while coordinating with agencies whose operational scope exceeded his previous understanding of intelligence community organizational structures, as strategic operations required cooperation across boundaries that normally remained compartmentalized for operational security reasons. MAM, security coordination is being implemented at levels that exceed normal facility protocols but are necessary for supporting strategic operations. The facility operated at maximum capacity as personnel adapted to supporting strategic operations that tested every capability they'd developed through years of professional training. DragonEye's coordination was enabling global response to systematic threats that could reshape international intelligence capabilities. But as operations continued toward critical phases, it became clear that enemy strategic planning included contingencies for American countermeasures that suggested intelligence penetration extending beyond current security assumptions. The next few hours would test DragonEye's capabilities against enemy strategic warfare that represented the most sophisticated threat American intelligence had ever faced. Scarlett continued coordinating global operations while understanding that current strategic warfare was testing every capability she'd developed through years of specialized training that few people could comprehend or duplicate under operational pressure. All facilities worldwide implement maximum security protocols, she announced through secure communications that reached American intelligence installations across 6 continents. Enemy forces are implementing final operational phases with strategic timing that suggests coordination beyond current threat assessment assumptions. The response was immediate as facilities worldwide shifted to maximum defensive status while implementing countermeasures that DragonEye had coordinated through predictive analysis of enemy strategic planning patterns. Kane felt the weight of strategic responsibility as he realized that tactical decisions made at his level were influencing global operations that could determine American intelligence effectiveness for decades. DragonEye, what's your assessment of strategic operations success probability? 73% for preventing major strategic compromise. Enemy planning was sophisticated, but predictive analysis enabled countermeasures that should disrupt their operational coordination. Harper coordinated with international units while processing the knowledge that infantry training had prepared him for tactical operations but not for strategic warfare that required understanding global implications of local operational decisions. Ma'am, international units are implementing defensive measures based on your strategic analysis. Initial reports suggest effective disruption of enemy operational timing. Foster maintained communication systems while struggling to support operations that had evolved far beyond the facility's normal technical capacity, as strategic coordination required international communication capabilities that exceeded standard military frameworks. DragonEye, communication systems are maintaining international coordination, but technical limitations are approaching critical levels for supporting continued strategic operations. Understood. Maintain systems at maximum capability. Strategic success depends on international coordination, despite technical limitations. Johnson monitored electronic warfare while detecting decreased enemy activity levels that suggested American countermeasures were successfully disrupting enemy strategic coordination. Ma'am, enemy electronic warfare activities are decreasing across multiple operational zones. Your strategic countermeasures appear to be disrupting their coordination capabilities. Dr. Mitchell provided scientific analysis while recognizing that strategic operations were demonstrating capabilities that exceeded her academic frameworks for understanding predictive intelligence methodologies. The coordination effectiveness suggests analytical capabilities that represent significant advancement in strategic intelligence warfare. Nash coordinated technical support while understanding that his systems had supported operations that prevented strategic intelligence compromise, with implications that could have affected global security for decades. DragonEye technical systems successfully supported strategic operations that prevented major intelligence compromise. Blackwood coordinated international communications while feeling profound relief that strategic operations had succeeded, despite her earlier unprofessional conduct that could have compromised operational effectiveness. Ma'am, international communications confirm successful implementation of strategic countermeasures worldwide. Rivera coordinated field operations while processing the knowledge that infantry training had intersected with strategic warfare that demonstrated the importance of tactical excellence in supporting strategic objectives. DragonEye field operations confirm successful prevention of systematic attacks on American intelligence facilities worldwide. Cross maintained command authority while understanding that his facility had served as operational headquarters for strategic warfare that prevented systematic compromise of American intelligence capabilities with global implications. Ma'am, command coordination confirms strategic operation success with prevention of major intelligence compromise. Reynolds coordinated with higher command authorities while processing the implications of participating in strategic operations that had prevented systematic attack on American intelligence capabilities worldwide. DragonEye higher command confirms strategic operation success and requests assessment of ongoing threat levels. Dawson implemented security measures while coordinating with agencies whose operational success had prevented systematic compromise of American intelligence capabilities through strategic countermeasures that exceeded normal operational frameworks. Ma'am, security coordination confirms successful prevention of strategic intelligence compromise with minimal operational exposure. As strategic operations reached successful completion, personnel at Fort Davidson understood that they had participated in warfare that had prevented systematic destruction of American intelligence capabilities while maintaining operational security that would preserve DragonEye's continued effectiveness. Scarlett assessed strategic results while understanding that successful prevention of systematic intelligence compromise represented victory in warfare that most people would never know had threatened global security. Strategic operations successful. Systematic threat to American intelligence capabilities has been neutralized with minimal operational exposure. But as immediate strategic threats resolved into successful countermeasures, new intelligence began indicating that enemy strategic planning extended beyond current operations to long-term campaigns that could require ongoing vigilance and continued international cooperation to prevent future systematic attacks. The victory was significant, but it was also preliminary to larger strategic warfare that would continue requiring capabilities that DragonEye represented. American intelligence had survived systematic attack, but enemy strategic planning suggested continued threats that would test every capability the intelligence community could develop. As operations shifted from crisis response to ongoing strategic vigilance, personnel at Fort Davidson understood that their facility had become permanently important for supporting operations that extended far beyond routine intelligence collection to strategic warfare that required constant readiness for threats that could develop without warning. Kane approached DragonEye as operations transitioned from immediate crisis response to ongoing strategic requirements. Ma'am, what are our responsibilities for continued strategic operations? Fort Davidson will serve as coordination center for ongoing strategic vigilance against systematic threats to American intelligence capabilities. Your facility has demonstrated capability for supporting operations that extend beyond normal frameworks. Harper processed the implications of discovering that his facility had become permanently important for strategic operations that required infantry training to be adapted to intelligence warfare requirements. Dragon Eye, how do we maintain readiness for strategic operations while conducting normal facility operations? Dual mission capability. Routine operations provide cover for strategic readiness that enables immediate response to systematic threats as they develop. Foster coordinated communications while understanding that technical systems would require permanent upgrade to support strategic operations that could develop without warning and require immediate international coordination. Ma'am, what technical capabilities do we need for maintaining strategic readiness? Enhanced communication systems, upgraded analysis capabilities, and technical support for international coordination at strategic levels. Johnson monitored electronic systems while understanding that technical responsibilities now included supporting strategic operations that could determine American intelligence effectiveness during future crises. Dragon Eye, technical systems will be upgraded to support strategic operations with permanent enhanced capabilities. Dr. Mitchell provided scientific analysis while recognizing that her research would now include supporting strategic intelligence operations that exceeded academic frameworks but required scientific methodology for maximum effectiveness. Ma'am, scientific analysis capabilities will be enhanced to support strategic intelligence operations. Nash coordinated technical support while understanding that casual approaches to security were permanently inadequate for supporting strategic operations that required maximum technical security under all operational conditions. Dragon Eye, technical support will be enhanced to support strategic operations with appropriate security levels. Blackwood coordinated communications while feeling profound gratitude that strategic operations had succeeded despite her earlier conduct and determination that future professional behavior would support strategic operations with appropriate respect for classified requirements. Ma'am, communications coordination will be enhanced to support strategic operations with complete professional competence. Rivera coordinated field operations while understanding that infantry training now included supporting strategic intelligence operations that required tactical excellence in service of strategic objectives. Dragon Eye, field operations will be enhanced to support strategic intelligence operations with complete tactical readiness. Cross maintained command authority while understanding that facility command now included strategic responsibilities that exceeded normal military command frameworks but required military leadership for effective implementation of intelligence operations. Ma'am, command coordination will be enhanced to support strategic intelligence operations with appropriate military leadership. Reynolds coordinated with higher command while understanding that strategic operations would continue requiring operational authority that exceeded normal military frameworks but were essential for protecting American intelligence capabilities. Dragon Eye, higher command confirms continued operational authority for strategic intelligence operations with complete organizational support. Dawson implemented security measures while understanding that facility security now included protecting strategic intelligence operations that were essential for American national security and required security measures that exceeded normal protocols. Ma'am, security measures will be enhanced to support strategic intelligence operations with maximum protection for classified activities. As Fort Davidson transitioned to its new role as Strategic Intelligence Coordination Center, personnel understood that their careers had intersected with capabilities that would influence American security for decades, while requiring professional excellence that exceeded normal military standards. Scarlett prepared for departure to her next assignment, while understanding that Fort Davidson would continue serving strategic intelligence requirements under operational security that protected American capabilities while maintaining readiness for threats that could develop without warning. Fort Davidson is now designated as Strategic Intelligence Coordination Center, with permanent enhanced capabilities for supporting operations that extend beyond normal intelligence frameworks, she announced to personnel who had witnessed transformation of their facility during strategic operations. Your professional excellence has enabled strategic success that protects American intelligence capabilities worldwide. Kane felt profound honor at serving in facility that had become strategically important for American intelligence, while understanding that professional responsibilities now included supporting operations that extended far beyond normal military frameworks. Ma'am, Fort Davidson will maintain readiness for strategic intelligence operations with complete professional dedication. As Scarlett prepared for departure, personnel understood that they had witnessed capabilities that redefined their understanding of what was possible in modern intelligence operations, while accepting responsibilities that would influence their careers for years to come. Harper approached for final conversation with someone whose capabilities had earned his complete respect while transforming his understanding of military service and professional responsibility. Dragoneye, thank you for demonstrating what's possible when professional excellence serves strategic objectives. Foster struggled with complex emotions about her conduct while understanding that future professional behavior would be influenced by witnessing strategic operations that demonstrated the importance of supporting classified activities with complete competence. Ma'am, thank you for professional grace despite my inappropriate behavior. Johnson coordinated technical systems while feeling profound satisfaction that his technical skills had supported strategic operations that prevented systematic compromise of American intelligence capabilities. Dragoneye, technical systems successfully supported strategic operations with professional excellence. Dr. Mitchell provided final scientific analysis while understanding that her research capabilities had been enhanced through supporting strategic intelligence operations that exceeded academic frameworks. Ma'am, scientific analysis capabilities were enhanced through supporting strategic intelligence operations. Nash coordinated technical support while understanding that professional responsibilities now included maintaining technical systems adequate for supporting strategic operations that could develop without warning. Dragoneye, technical support will maintain enhanced capabilities for strategic intelligence operations. Blackwood coordinated final communications while feeling profound relief that strategic operations had succeeded despite her earlier conduct and determination that future professional behavior would support strategic requirements with complete competence. Ma'am, communications capabilities will be maintained at enhanced levels for supporting strategic intelligence operations. Rivera coordinated field operations while understanding that infantry training had been enhanced through supporting strategic intelligence operations that demonstrated the importance of tactical excellence in service of strategic objectives. Dragoneye, field operations will maintain enhanced readiness for supporting strategic intelligence requirements. Cross maintained command authority while understanding that facility command now included strategic responsibilities that required military leadership excellence for supporting intelligence operations that protected American capabilities worldwide. Ma'am, command coordination will maintain enhanced capabilities for supporting strategic intelligence operations. Reynolds coordinated with higher command while understanding that strategic operations would continue requiring operational excellence that exceeded normal military frameworks but were essential for protecting American intelligence capabilities. Dragoneye, higher command confirms continued enhanced operational authority for strategic intelligence coordination. Dawson implemented final security measures while understanding that facility security now included protecting strategic intelligence operations that were essential for American national security. Ma'am, security measures will be maintained at enhanced levels for protecting strategic intelligence operations. As Scarlett departed for her next assignment, personnel at Fort Davidson understood that they had participated in strategic operations that prevented systematic compromise of American intelligence capabilities while accepting permanent responsibilities for supporting strategic intelligence requirements that would influence American security for decades. The helicopter that carried Dragoneye toward her next assignment represented continuation of strategic intelligence operations that protected American capabilities while maintaining operational security that preserved effectiveness for future missions that would test every capability the intelligence community could develop. Kane watched the helicopter disappear while understanding that his facility had become permanently important for supporting strategic intelligence operations that extended far beyond routine military frameworks. Fort Davidson will maintain strategic readiness for intelligence operations that protect American capabilities worldwide. As the aircraft vanished into the distance, personnel understood that they had witnessed transformation of their facility during strategic operations that prevented systematic attack on American intelligence, while accepting responsibilities that would influence their professional development for years to come. The mission continued, as it always did, carried forward by people willing to accept responsibilities that exceeded normal frameworks while maintaining professional excellence that supported strategic objectives larger than individual careers or personal recognition. Dragoneye was flying toward another challenge, Another opportunity to protect American lives through capabilities that most people couldn't imagine while maintaining operational security that preserved effectiveness for missions that would determine American strategic capabilities for decades to come. Fort Davidson had become Strategic Intelligence Coordination Center through operations that demonstrated professional excellence under extreme pressure, while accepting responsibilities that would influence American security through capabilities that exceeded conventional military frameworks, but were essential for protecting national interests in strategic environments that required constant vigilance. The legend continued to grow, but more importantly, the mission continued to succeed through professional dedication that protected American capabilities while maintaining readiness for threats that could develop without warning and require immediate response from specialists whose existence remained classified for operational security reasons. Intelligence professionals worldwide continued their missions, knowing that Dragon Eye's success at Fort Davidson had prevented systematic compromise, while establishing enhanced coordination capabilities that would protect American intelligence effectiveness for years to come through professional excellence that served strategic objectives larger than individual recognition or career advancement. The story ended, but the mission continued, carried forward through operational security that protected capabilities while maintaining strategic readiness for challenges that would test every skill the intelligence community could develop, in service of principles that transcended individual careers while protecting American interests worldwide through professional dedication that exceeded normal frameworks for military service.